and the fourth stream having to do with the submarines. That is moving along very slowly, very slowly, and will continue to move along very slowly. I'm going to be working on painting some very large surfaces, the interior walls of the submarine, and then starting to work on some very, very tiny detail. So I'm not sure I'll be doing any assembling anytime soon on the submarine. But one of the things I'm not sure of is what adhesive I'm going to use. You know, you're supposed to use this model cement, which is actually a weld. It melts the polystyrene and they grab together. And it's very strong. But in order to use it, you know, in order to paint these things, the paint like the torpedoes, they get painted on all their surfaces, and then they sit on these torpedo racks. And one has to scrape off tiny little bits of the paint on both surfaces where they make contact without scraping it in any place that's visible. Okay. In order for it to adhere, otherwise it melts the paint and the paint just runs into each other and it makes a huge mess. I know some modelers use super glue, cyanoacrylic glue, which is, you know, for that kind of thing is really kind of decent. You just put a tiny dot on one surface that can be painted. It's okay as long as the paint adheres to the surface pretty well. And then you just touch the other one to it and it grabs almost immediately. And that can work pretty well on things like the torpedoes on the torpedo racks, as long as you get them in the right spot right away. Because once it grabs, you know, there are some releasers which are designed for when you glue your fingers together. You know, when you super glue your fingers together and you can't get it apart, then you use the releaser. You can use that on model pieces too. But anyway, sometime between now and probably next week, this week I'm going to be doing painting on lots of, you know, just trying different things out on some of the details. Like the step ladders and the dials and the clocks and stuff. But I might see if we have some cyanoacrylate glue. I think there's a tube back here, but it's old. Anyway, I might try it, at least on some surfaces like that. Other surfaces are pretty easy to clean. Like these little pins go in these holes, little holes, and you just put the cement in the hole. And along the edge, you know, it's pretty easy to take the paint off of that surface and make it hold. Others, you know, are a little harder because, like the torpedoes, they're painted on all sides. Anyway, talking about adhesives, I will probably not use the contact cement, mainly because it's hard to, well, I don't know. That actually might work if I can get, no, you have to get it on both surfaces, and these torpedoes are little tiny round cylinders, and to line it up just right would be difficult. Now, so what I really want is I want grays. We got gray here. We got darker gray. We got neutral gray, which is a lighter gray. I'm going to grab what's called NATO black, which is really, really dark gray. And I'm going to put some thinner in this. Oh my. Okay, yeah. There is definitely paint in the threads here. I want to thin this out a little bit because this is kind of an old bottle and there's been some evaporation. May or may not ever open again. So there's 3 shades of gray. I'm not sure I'm going to use pure black. I have that available if I need to. I think this is a pretty good black color. What did I need? I want field blue is really dark. I'm looking for the cloak. Let me show you some of these colors. The field blue is this one here, this really dark black kind of, but it's got a little bit of blue in it. I'm going to use that for the outside of the cloak, and then I'm going to use this medium blue for the inside of the cloak. And we want the outside to be dark because it's it's sneaky, but I want a little bit of color, a little color contrast. So I'm going to use that on the inside of the cloak, and that probably will actually be the first thing I paint because, as you can see, this cloak was designed with the painter not in mind. And even as I'm going through this, I'm seeing there's a little support string, so I'm going to do some cleaning up. So medium blue and field blue on the cloak. You can see the difference between the 2 grays. This sea blue here, that sea blue is actually kind of almost black. I might pull that out to use as an accent color. I think, yeah, we got a little mini bottle of that. Blue. Okay. We got a paint line up there. Yeah. So there's fairly many colors. I'm going to paint the blades. I'll probably give them a black hilt, and I'm going to paint them steel so that they just stay in that dark theme. Let's do some cleaning up here. There's an X-Acto knife with a tiny blade that is not here. It keeps moving because it's useful for other things, and those other things aren't on this particular work surface. There we go. I have a better chance of being on screen. It's way down in here, and it comes off pretty easily, but there's a support bit from the printing process. If I keep this up, I might be able to do like an entire stream of relaxing painting without actually doing any painting. That really won't happen, but you put together wooden swords, clean up the model a little bit, chat about Super Chicken, look forward to seeing who do some painting. We'll have the Nines and Zoria show. That'll be pretty fun to watch. Sometimes people who haven't really done it before, painting, if they haven't been trained, like me, come up with just novel ways of doing things in terms of colors and application and stuff, and they can turn out pretty well. I think that's better. Okay, so I'm going to be painting the insides of these cloaks, and it's going to be a very messy process because, I mean, it's way on the inside and up there and inside the arms and things, so I'll be getting paint unintentionally, but unavoidably for me, on all sorts of other surfaces. It's just going to happen. That's why I'm going to do it first. And as I said, I'm going to do both of these in the same color scheme. Oh, there. Pick a brush. I'll use this brush. See how that works. It's small enough to be able to get into all the little nooks and crannies. Okay. But yet big enough to spread the paint over what are fairly large surfaces. And if I'm looking at this, sometimes I painted the hood a different color than the cloak, but in this case it looks pretty integral, but there's still the inside of it around the face. Good. I've sometimes done the hands and the face earlier on with some of these models, like right there, getting it in there, neck and stuff, but I'll do that later. Anyway, believe it or not, I hardly can believe it myself. There's going to actually be some painting happening now. I'm relaxing painting. We now have some stirred paint. This is the, we use this color pretty often. We actually use it in some of our dungeon tiles. I'm just getting it all over the arm and just reaching into to get it onto the cloak. It's getting it everywhere. But yeah, it'll be repainted later with whatever color I end up using for the overshirt. So we've used this for some of the stone dungeon tiles. And when you put a black wash on it, and I have to just be real honest, I'm not going to be able to wash the inside of the cloak, at least not very much. I'd like to, but getting it in there without getting it everywhere else, I can see it would be very difficult. We're going to consider this to be like a background color, just something a little bit lighter than the grays that I'm going to be using on the leather armor. I mean, so I have to say that, I keep repeating this, but it is just a recurring mystery. Why did... Especially figures like this that are supposed to be really stealthy. You know, I can think, okay, so you can wrap yourself in a cloak, and that's supposed to be stealthy and mysterious and all of that. But, you know, cloaks are not silent. If you move them, especially if they're fairly heavy fabric, they're going to rustle. That's the word that you use for fabric noise, is it makes a rustling sound. When this one's dragging, they're both dragging on the ground, and so you're going to get the sound from that as well. And you can see it hangs over their arm. If you're trying to do some good, you know, pokey stabby things with your daggers, I would imagine you could get tangled up in it. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's cool looking and all, but I would say that a cloak like this would be just really, really unhelpful if you're in fact trying to be a real sneaky rogue kind of figure. But there it is. They are both wearing really big cloaks, which are now being painted blue, dark, kind of a nice dark blue on the inside, which will be a slightly lighter kind of background with the rest of their gray leather armor. It's always a task for later, which is to decide, you know, where do you put the edge of the cloak. I want to paint a little bit over the edge, so that when I paint down onto it later, I have some flexibility in determining where the edge will be. For those of you who have heard my rant about design versus manufacturing engineers, I'm not going to replay it for you here by doing it again, but this is definitely one of those. The design engineer built a really nice rogue model here, without giving any consideration to what it would be like to paint it. I mean, when you've got something like this, you know, where there's a cloak in the back there, you have to get paint onto it so it doesn't just have a big bright spot. Yeah. And then, the inside around the head. The boundary between the cloak and the collar there isn't really clear, but I need to get the paint down into that gap. The inside of the hood part of the cloak. And then later we'll be painting the neck and the face, little bits of eyes that show above the mask that are now totally covered in blue paint. Okay. Yeah, as promised, it looks pretty scabby. But hopefully we'll make that up as we start painting the other surfaces. And this one will have, the same issue, because like way down in there, you have to get the cloak color. Dabbing the inside of her cloak with her dagger. See what I mean about cloaks getting in the way? That dagger point. So if that dagger point goes through the cloak here, and it's actually touching the cloak there. If that dagger point went through the cloak, it would bind in there. And you pull your dagger out and want to use it, and you have a choice of, either the dagger would bind and you wouldn't be able to pull it out, or you'd pull it out and rip your cloak with a big tear in it. But, you want to look cool, you got to have a big cape. Yeah, this is a really nicely designed and executed figure. The cloak actually is separate from the back of the model. There's actually a separation between the cloak and the waist armor there. But, how are you going to paint her back? You can't. And as with the other one, I'm going to be painting over the edge so that I can decide which color is where later when I do the outside of the cape thing. Same thing will happen here. It looks like a little, that's pretty clever. There's a little bit of her hair showing right there. It's going to get largely painted over now as I do the inside of the hood. I'm trying to leave it. The face will be like the other one, painted over. But that, even though these aren't the most hyper detailed designs, just that little touch, like a little bit of the hair showing, is so. Yeah, there's a little bit of a hair showing, the neck under the mask, eyes there. Those will have to be done with a tiny little brush. I was thinking of making these figures very pale. Just white, ghostly looking. Not much of the skin is showing, so I think that could work okay. Checking around, yeah, there's spots, just for spots like that that didn't get painted. And before I cap up the paint, I will down in there, just it's going to be painted on another surface, but otherwise I'm going to get like a white spot. And I'll just check this one. Now that the paint is drying, okay, so there's that. Decide. I only know about one other color, so I've got these others, these grays. I think just looking at this, that I might paint, the shirt. Let's break off that dagger too. The shirt, the lighter gray. We could paint the boots black, the NATO black, and the belt. Those pouches, those are the kinds of things that I might paint like a really dark green, maybe. I'm not sure. And I've got this sea blue, this really dark sea blue. We could use that for the pouches. And then I'm going to use steel for like the buckle and the daggers, and then just a little bit of black for the hilt of the daggers. I think I'll make the mask the same color as the pouches. I'll use this dark blue for that. And I'm only going to use the NATO black for the boots. Like the mask and the pouches would be this really dark sea blue, kind of bluish color. These will be pretty boring looking, but they're sneaky, they're rogues, they're going to be dark. They want to blend into the shadows, right? So, yeah, why not? And what? Bone white. This is a color I used for parts of the submarine. Yeah, see, I put some paint on. Look, there's painting. I did painting. Yeah, it's bone white. Might be the skin color. So let me see how it looks. It might be a little too brown. Yeah, it's way too brown. I'm going to just use ivory. And I think I might do that next if I can find it. I'm going to put on my head magnifiers here because I need to see the face is pretty clear where what is where. But I need to see where the boundary is between the armor and the hands, and that's not that clear. Anyway, we'll give this a stir here and see what happens. We get these guys out here. Like this being Monday more than Monday needs to be Monday. I've used the 1.5s and the 2s. I think I'm just going to use the 1.5s here and see how this works today. Keep my head. See what I can see. What I can see. Oh. Yeah, there's definitely studded armor. She's got all sorts of little spiky things. I don't know. I don't. It looks like there's a gap just right around the elbows in the upper part of the armor and the lower, so that's painted the flesh color. See if I can see what's going on with this guy. He's wearing gloves, but that would be inconsistent. The boundary here is indistinct. I'm just going to make it up. So the upside of looking through these is that I can see way more detail than I can without them, and it's in pretty decent focus. The downside is that I can see where there are flaws in the paint that I couldn't otherwise. Lovely. Okay, well, give this a little more stirring. See how this goes. That went a little bit too far up onto what was previously blue. Let's see if we have the same issue here. I haven't painted the mask yet, so I can get it from the mask, which gives me a little leeway in terms of brush orientation. What I might be able to do with the skin color is we have this gray wash. It doesn't really add much color, but we'll tone down the whiteness of it and could highlight things like the eyes. Adding to the ghostliness of the skin tone. Always been impressed by the detail of the hands. And the whole thumb is nicely separated from the rest of the hand. You see all the fingers. Focus is kind of coming and going here. But yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at this and thinking the gray wash on here might give it kind of an interesting effect. I'm not sure. We'll see. Yeah, just a little bit of blue touch up there. I'm going to do that little block of hair before I do the blue touch up around the face. That's kind of the ghostly flesh that I was looking for. Okay, let's do this guy. I very carelessly get paint all over the lapels there. Those will get painted later. I want to get the chin up to, but not onto where the mask is going. So just trying to see where that line is. Here again, I can get paint on where the mask is going to be. So I'll be painting up to the inside of the cowl over the top of the mask. Side where, well, the side where their nose is. When I paint the mask. Okay. And I decided that's where the armor is. It'll be right about there. Because otherwise you can't really tell from the model. Kind of see a line from this side, but that's really about the only place. And can't reach the inside of the hand here. I was going to say that that's going to remain in the shadows, right? That will be the excuse. When these are designed, the designer is working from something much larger, and then it's just made smaller when it's printed at D&D 1-inch grid size. Sorry for being quiet. Just trying to reach these very hard to reach spots. Get some paint on there so that it's that. Okay. Transparent there. Okay, well that's good enough at the moment. What do I want to do next? I think I'm going to do the belt. Do the belt because then I can paint up to it when I do the cloak. I might do the belt and the pouches and the mask. Yeah, I don't know. That camera was put up there so that it wouldn't be in the way when Nicole was painting. But it's a long way away from the models. Let me take these off and see if I can make an adjustment so you can actually see what I'm working on here. You might want to use this for the submarine. That's better, isn't it? Like that. So if I can keep it on camera, you'll be able to see a little better what's happening. And it's still off of my face. So yeah, we'll just leave it like that. And I'll just keep looking up every now and then to see whether or not what I'm painting is sort of on camera. Fancy boots. What did I say? I was going to use this field blue, the mask and the pouches, right? Get one of those. They used to be here. Things. There they are. Got these nice little mixing balls, and I put them in many of the paints, but not all of them. And I didn't hear it rattling, so I'm guessing I didn't get one in here. But a small bottle. Oh, there's another one in there. Now there's two. That won't hurt. That's better. There we go. Trying to do that for nines. For who? back to head enlargers, make my head big again, and let's see how this works. I'm going to paint the mask here. Yeah, that's pretty much where it's going to have to be. It's a little tricky bit. I'm going to get the top of the mask, but not the face. Okay, that looks okay. This looks almost black, but there's a lot of blue in it, so it's kind of a nice color. But now you can see the face and the eyes more clearly. Okay, I'll just paint these pouches. In some ways, I feel not bad is the right word, but like I'm kind of cheating, shortcut cheating by painting so much of this just in simple colors. Like all these pouches are the same color. On the other hand, you know, these are very roguey figures, and they're probably not going to be wandering around with bright blue and red pouches, right? That would miss the point. So I think it's color appropriate, even though it's kind of monochromatic. Monochromatic being the appropriate bit. Yep, got some right there. Will be painted over. And I'm going to paint the little bits of belt that's showing pure black, and hopefully you'll be able to see the contrast between that and this kind of grayish blue color. I'll do the same to this one. I'm not anywhere near being on camera, am I? That's better. Yeah. Yeah, I was doing all that detail painting and you could see none of it. I could see my head magnified again. Yeah, that's the problem. If I get the camera close enough for some of the detail to be able to see it, then it doesn't give me much room to work here. That worked okay. So let's do the pouches here.